everybody. I'm Mike Cornell, founder of Boston Making a Difference, here with another episode of BMAD Spotlight. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 1. We're now happy to say we're in 2021. A lot of people are happy to see 2020 go and make 2021 a better year. And to help you get there, we have with us today Dr. Pat Boulogne. Dr. Pat Boulogne is a certified functional medicine practitioner, a chiropractor, an acupuncturist, and also a speaker author. Welcome to BMAD Spotlight, Dr. Pat.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you very much for the invite. And I'm happy here to help your listeners have a bigger, better, wonderful 2021 and step into it with absolute confidence.
Excellent. Dr. Pat, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Dr. Pat Boulogne?
Well, I have a big background as a chiropractic sports physician. And as I went along, I decided to go to acupuncture school and become an acupuncturist. And then I started coaching. I decided to write a book called Why Are You Sick, Fat, and Tired, which became a bestseller. And I also speak, and I have a really great time doing it. I love to help people. And one of my biggest missions in life is to help people have that realization that they can have health and move forward and make sense of it.
That's great. Dr. Pat, I was hoping we'd be stopping talking about this by Season 2, but we're still talking about the pandemic. So tell me a little bit about how you're helping people during this, stressful time.
Well, one of the things that, you've got to take a look at what people, executives and entrepreneurs and busy professionals and everybody is asking me is, how can I improve my immune system? So you have to know where your immune system is first. You have to and I always say that you have to go back to basics. Whenever you have, the proverbial crap hits the fan, you've got to go back to what the bottom line is. And you have to look at your foundation. So by looking at what your health foundation is, and you can find out what your strongest links and what your weakest links are. And then you can take the right appropriate steps to fortify your weakest links. And how I do that with people is I have a questionnaire that specifically goes into each one of the organ systems and asks minute questions sometimes and very detailed questions that people can answer so you can get your health snapshot, like in a big picture. There's 11 organ systems that we're taking a look at.
Well, you can't have a more appropriate topic right now than the immune system with COVID-19 and other viruses that are out there. Protecting our immune systems is huge. Tell us a little bit more about that, how you're helping people, build and protect their immune system.
Well, like I just indicated that I have questionnaires. It's in my book. It's Why Are You Sick, Fat, and Tired? There is chapter 7 on the immune system. And what it tells you is it tells you how it's functioning right now. So you have to know what the baseline is. So there's things that people can do for their immune systems by eating cleaner, eating organic, staying hydrated, taking vitamin C and vitamin D especially, and zinc. The majority of people in the United States are zinc deficient, and zinc is a big component with vitamin C in supporting the immune system. So there's specific things that people can do, but you have to know what organ system is making the immune system rather weak. So it's not just my immune system is this one entity or one piece of the pie. It's only a portion of the pie, and you got to take a look at the whole person.
I think you and I talked about this briefly the last time when we first met. One of the things that I'm big on is increasing your glutathione count. Now, do you work with people on that at all? And maybe you could expand a little bit on it?
Okay, so what I say is if you fix your gut, you change your life. So how glutathione is very involved with liver and metabolism. And so when you have, and it's actually somewhat of considered anti-aging. So what happens is when somebody eats food, they eat it, it goes in your stomach and it goes through your stomach, and along the track, it absorbs micronutrients along the way. If your stomach's compromised or if your intestinal tract is compromised, what happens is that some of those food particles go through the one cell layer of the in the intestine, and it goes through, and then it has to go. And sometimes you have some type of allergic response. It has to go to the liver to be processed. And when the liver gets done processing toxins, it will kick them out into the intestinal tract, or if they're minute enough, they'll go to the kidney, to go to the bladder, to be excreted in the urine. So it's important to have a liver that has the ability to identify toxins. So when the liver gets sluggish or overwhelmed, what it does is it takes those toxins and it stores them in fatty tissue like blood, brain, bone, and fat. And so when it does that, then it's deep. And you have to be able to, up the ability for the liver to detox. There's multiple levels of detoxification. So the ones that we're really looking at are the second and the third one. And so the glutathione is really important so that the liver does its job better. And so when you're looking at how to make the liver do its job better, the things that you can choose to do is, avoid sugar, avoid whites like flour and salt. You have to avoid, fructose. That's where your fruit, when you eat it, the fructose gets synthesized and handled by the liver, and sugar gets handled by glucose gets handled in the gut. So there's two different things going on, and you have to, and it's a very consuming process for the body to do that, especially if it's off kilter and it's more taxing.
Maybe you could offer a few tips aside from the typical that people get, the washing your hands and the social distancing and wearing a mask and all that stuff. Maybe a couple things, 2 or 3 things people can do to boost their immune system and help fight off virus and disease.
Well, viruses are only a virus, they're not a disease. And what happens is when you come in contact with the virus, which are so small, they can go right through the mask, right into the perfect environment of the mucous membrane and the moisture that's in the nose and the mouth and the back of the throat. So, one thing, the washing the hand thing is so important. And what drives me crazy is like when I go to a grocery store, I avoid big grocery stores, but when I go to a grocery store, I make sure I use colloidal silver in my car, and I put it on my hands and I go into the grocery store. But I think that grocery stores should mandate that you have to wash your hands before you go into them, because people you don't know what people are doing. So they're going into the grocery store, they're touching everything, and then they're checking out and they're leaving. And so, making sure that you wash your hands frequently. I know that you said that, but I think it's important to have something in your car that you can use. I mean, when you go to get gasoline, some gasoline stations now have plastic gloves in order for you, like when you're pumping gas, so you're not touching, you have those things on, and
Right.
and you have and that's a very smart thing to do, because gasoline stations are filthy. And I mean, the gas pump, I always say, make a sign of the cross. You can tell I went to a Catholic school. And so that's an important thing to do. Another important thing is to be very hydrated. And so how you figure out how much water you drink, and if you don't like the taste of water, put lemon in it or lime. Do put % lemon or lime only. And then what to do is you drink 50, for every 50 pounds you have, it's 1 ounce for every 50 pounds. So a 150-pound person is going to have 75 ounces of water in a day of some sort. And that doesn't include coffee. It's that kind of like, or broth. If you have broth, but not coffee. Because the reason for that is because even though it's made with water, it makes the liver has a hard time synthesizing that coffee and working it through. So the water is a really important thing. And don't eat sugar. It's one of the biggest offenders of inflammation in the body. And so when you're reading and eating things well, don't eat processed foods. Take the time to, eat whole foods that are nutritious, and then take a look at how you combine things. That would be a big thing, because when, years ago, the book, Eat for Life, I think it was what it was called, he had a food combining chart. And when I gave that to my patients, and I now give that to every one of my clients, they all love it, because they never thought like, well, I never knew that you couldn't eat that with that, that kind of thing. You would never have like oranges with a steak. It just doesn't, chemically go together. So you can find foods that pair together better so that you can have better utilization of the style of foods that you eat, because food is fuel for your body. And if you do that, then your gut also will like you a lot more too. So you won't have that problem with any type of like bloating and that type of stuff.
All great points. I'm pretty good on most of that stuff. Sugar is my downfall. I do like sweets, and I've always had that sweet tooth. But hydration is key. I'm always, hydrating to the best of my ability. I drink as much water as I can each day. But what's something people can do to try to eliminate that sugar intake? Any tips there?
Sure. One of the things I tell people, if you're having a sugar craving, is to have a hard-boiled egg, have a small piece of protein. And then if you're still having that craving about a half hour later, then have another protein. But start substituting a small piece of protein, like an ounce of like hard cheese, not processed, but hard cheese, excuse me, is a good way to do that. So you can look at first an ounce of, tuna fish. You could have an ounce of salmon, something like that instead of having the sweet. A lot of times, when you're having that sweet tooth, your body might be having a harder time handling glucose, and the sugar in your body. So if you're still having that and you're just really struggling with that, it might be a good time to go get the glucose tested in the A1C type of biomarker. Then you can see how you've been doing in the last 3 months. That's what that biomarker tells you.
Excellent. So you have a lot of great advice for people. If some of our viewers want to get in touch with you and either just, chat or possibly work with you, how do they get in touch with you, Dr. Pat?
Well, one thing they can do is they can go on Amazon and they can buy my book called Why Are You Sick, Fat, and Tired? It is there. It's available. It's also available on Barnes & Noble and other media devices. I recommend, especially for New Year's resolutions, I especially recommend the hard copy so that you can follow your progress in a couple of months. And it's also in your face. Digital visions disappear. You get like out of sight, out of mind. And so where people can get a hold of me besides Amazon and get the book, they also can go to my website, which is healthteamnetwork.com. And I'm on LinkedIn under Dr. Pat Boulogne, Facebook, Ask Dr. Pat, and Instagram, I'm Ask Dr. Pat also. So I have those things, and I'll give those links to you so that you have them so your viewers have an easier way of finding me.
Excellent. So those were all, great tips that you gave us today, and the information to get in touch with you. That's cool. Anything else you want to leave with our audience today? Any, final advice or words?
Oh, well, if there's so much out there, what I would suggest to people is to keep on asking themselves, is whatever that they're reading, does this make sense? And if it doesn't make sense, that's where you choose to do your research, especially when you're hearing so many different sources of information. This source said this source said that. So because people are so stressed out, you don't want to have that stress interfere with how your health is, and interfere with how you digest your food, and interfere with how you think your thoughts, because they can undo anything good that you really do if your thoughts are not under control. So I would tell people to, really think out, ask that question, does this make sense? And if so, then, go with it. But if it doesn't make sense, if it doesn't sound right to you, it probably isn't. And you should do more research into that so you get better information.
Great point, Dr. Pat. Listen to that inner voice, our intuition. They're usually right, that little guy inside that's talking to you. So that's a great final piece of advice for everybody. Do what makes sense. Try to avoid stuff that doesn't make sense.
Well, and
right?
if anybody's confused, because that's what I do best, is I unconfuse people. I make sense of complicated and challenging situations in a simpler, faster way so you get better results. You can always reach out to me. I am very approachable.
Excellent. Dr. Pat, thank you so much for being here today on BMAD Spotlight and kicking off our 2021
Yay.
year. Happy New Year to everybody out there. And we'll see you on the next BMAD Spotlight. Thanks again, Dr. Pat.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, and Happy New Year. Namaste.